Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Kyle Henderson along with Ty Hayes. Run the thumbs up on all these videos. Alabama added their offensive line coach today. Chris Kapilovic coming to Alabama from Baylor. Before that, he made stops at Michigan State, where he was the assistant head coach, also working with the offensive line, and also at Colorado. 55 years old. This was a critical piece. Alabama needed a new offensive line coach after Scott Huff following Grubb to the Seattle Seahawks, following Eric Wolford going back to Kentucky. Here with Ty Hayes to dive right into it. This has been a question that everybody has been asking. So, breaking update: Chris Kapilovic added as the offensive line coach. Where do we start, Ty? What's kind of the quick detail that we have?
So I think there's a few places to start, but I'd like to start with something I've been hammering home for the past few weeks, and that's something Coach Kalen DeBoer talked about, and that was the autonomy that he liked his staff to operate with. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean when I say that is whenever you look at Nick Sheridan, now offensive coordinator, Coach DeBoer was talking about how he believes in building around his coordinators and that he needs to make sure that his coordinators are surrounded by people that they think they can succeed with. The reason why I want to bring all your attention to there is looking at some of the past titles Chris Kapilovic has
Yep.
had. We're talking about someone that's been an associate head coach, but the one that really stands out to me, Kyle, run game coordinator. And I know
Yep.
there are going to be people out there that say, oh, that's meaningless. And maybe. But I do find it interesting and intriguing that you have Shepard as pass game coordinator. Now you hire an offensive line coach that's seasoned like Kapilovic that has run game coordinator experience to go along with Nick Sheridan, an offensive coordinator, and
Mm-hmm.
Coach DeBoer being the mastermind of the offensive system.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting hire. When we look at his past experience, he was at Alabama State. He's been
Mm-hmm.
at Southern Miss. He's been at North Carolina. And yes, I know that North Carolina is not in the SEC, but if you're at North Carolina, you're recruiting in SEC states inevitably.
Mm-hmm.
He has familiarity with the territories that the Alabama staff is going to want him to recruit. Before we started cutting the video, we were talking about the places he's been able to successfully recruit in, say, a
Mm-hmm.
Florida, somewhere where on any given year, they're going to have 50 of the top 300 players in the nation. This is going to be an interesting hire. Exciting to see how this continues to come together and exciting to see how he's able to hit the ground running in terms of recruiting.
I think when you look to Coach Kalen DeBoer's overall staff that he's put in place, and now you need one more coach added to this coaching staff, you see a lot of titles that these guys have had at previous stops that are significant. Nick Sheridan, he was the current, at one point he was the Indiana offensive coordinator. Jamarcus Shepard, assistant head coach at Washington. Purdue, he was the co-offensive coordinator. Robert Gillespie now has assistant head coach onto his title. Kane Womack, defensive coordinator before that. He was at South Alabama as a head football coach. At Indiana, he was a defensive coordinator. Freddie Roach, been at Alabama since 2020, where he has now the title as associate head coach. William Inge was the Washington co-defensive coordinator last year. Was DC at Fresno State. Colin Hitchler, Wisconsin, he was a safeties coach, but he was the co-DC at Cincinnati. Maurice Lindquist was the University of Buffalo head football coach. Dallas Cowboys DB. And now you have Chris Kapilovic coming in, Baylor offensive line coach. He was a assistant head coach at Michigan State, run game coordinator as well. So my point is this staff has a heavy arsenal of coaches that have coached at the highest level and had significant titles. Ty, how are you feeling about this staff overall? It's starting to feel pretty good. I mean, I'm going to dive more into this particular hire, but you look at the wealth and knowledge coming to the University of Alabama, got to feel pretty good about it.
100%. Listen, if you're a head coach and you have an offensive line coach, you're not going to say, hey, you're the offensive line coach, you're the run game coordinator, you're the associate. You give responsibilities to people that you trust. The
Yeah.
fact that we can look around Alabama's staff and Chris Kapilovic, right? We just talked about it.
Yep.
Associate head coach, offensive line coach, run game coordinator, offensive coordinator, all things that he has done in some capacity, usually doing multiple of those at the same time. You give responsibilities to people you feel can handle the job. That right there is encouraging to me. On top of that, I mean, if we just take a step back and look at the staff, like you said, Kyle, you have former head coaches that came to be position coaches. You have guys such as Coach Hitchler, who was massive for the Cincinnati secondary. One of the best secondaries that year was that Cincinnati secondary and was an ace on the recruiting trail. I've talked about it time and time again. He ranked as the 15th best recruiter in the nation at Wisconsin. Now you put the Alabama brand behind him. I'm really excited for several of the names on this coaching staff, and I think they've done an awesome job.
All right, well, get ready. We got the tight ends coaches in as well. According to my good buddy Ryan C. Fowler, you can follow his show on 100.9. He does a really great job. He's got some really great connections. He just posted, and I will get a screenshot graphic for you guys, but you can follow him. I'm sure you guys already do on Twitter. And he has a really good Facebook channel as well, but he is announcing through his sources. And as I said, he's got some really good sources. The tight ends coach, I'm waiting for the graphic to be added right here. But you have your tight ends coach, drum roll, please. And is it on the screen? Do we get it on the screen? All right, is right here. And according to Ryan Fowler, the tight ends coach is also expected to be Bryan Ellis as the new tight ends coach. Ellis is currently the offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern. Ellis played quarterback at UAB from 2007 to 2011. So let's do some quick detail there. So Alabama has its coaching staff, fam. So you have two hires on this breaking update. Again, Bryan Ellis coming to Alabama as a tight ends coach. Ty, your opening thoughts. I know you haven't even had time to kind of digest this, but here we go.
Yeah, let's run into it. So he's a former quarterback, played for UAB from 2007 to 2011, from 2012 to 2013. He was a graduate assistant at UAB, moved from there to Western Kentucky in 2014, 2015, and 2016, all at Western Kentucky. 2014, he was an offensive quality control analyst. 2015, he was a running back coach at Western Kentucky. 2016, pass game coordinator, wide receiver coach. 2017, he was at USC as an offensive analyst, and in 2018 remained at USC, but was promoted from offensive analyst to quarterback coach. 2019 to 2020 went back to Western Kentucky, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, then served as a co-offensive coordinator, inside wide receivers coach, which is interesting, and then 2022 to present, Georgia Southern offensive coordinator, quarterback coach. So it's an interesting hire. I don't see where he's coached tight ends before, but he is a young guy. He is from Georgia, which gives you recruiting ties to the state of Georgia. It's going to be something interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, first hit. That's the first point out is kind of he didn't coach tight ends, but he is a tight ends coach. But you also have Nick Sheridan, who was going to be the tight ends coach and was a quarterback as well. I like the first thought of this is I like the fact that he's also been a co-offensive coordinator and also works specifically with the quarterbacks. So strategically, I think from a developmental standpoint, I love the fact that you're added yet another quarterback coach to the roster, because this room has been short-sighted over the last couple of years. Let's call it what it is. Bill O'Brien, Tommy Reese, Grubb. I mean, how many these guys haven't had an opportunity to develop these quarterbacks. So now that you're putting a heavy emphasis, in my opinion, that's what it means to me. I like it. So Coach Kalen DeBoer and his coaching staff is set and opening up Monday with news that is positive. You guys have been asking about the offensive line coach, Chris Kapilovic, coming in from Baylor, and now you have Bryan Ellis coming in from Georgia Southern. Ty, is it me or am I mistaken that Georgia Southern, their spring football game, is it them who got canceled, or wasn't there
I'm not mistaken? Yeah, and they just hired as their interim head coach their strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, because their head football coach took a job with. We'll have to look that up where he went.
Left, yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on. And I think they canceled their spring football game. So a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, Coach Kalen DeBoer, his staff has been set. So I'm gonna pop out real quick, Ty, and let you finish out your segment. Now you have something to chew on. But any closing remarks on the staff, kind of just at a snapshot glance?
No, I really like it from top to bottom. And even as we were talking about, even though Ellis doesn't have experience coaching tight ends, he's an offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah.
Like he knows how to be successful at the tight end position. He's coached wide receivers before. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what this looks like, especially because there's a lot of talent in that tight end room that we need to start utilizing at a higher degree, in my opinion.
Okay, so before I bounce out, you have two graphics to work with, and then we'll throw up Ty's graphic. But the first graphic is a snapshot tweet from Ryan Fowler. Please follow him; does a really great job here at the local radio. He is the guy